Ghost in the hallway. Hello fam, I am ya fam. Today I'm reviewing Palm Tree Square's EP, Palm Tree Square. So the band Palm Tree Square doesn't consist of palm tree squares, but it does include a human by the name of Stephen Morris. So what is Palm Tree Square's sound, or Stephen Morris's sound? Apparently he goes by emo math rock. So the emo part obviously meaning sad and lonely, and the math part means wicked knowledge of theory and crazy instrumental skills, and the rock just meaning rock. So how does Palm Tree Square's EP Palm Tree Square sound? Well, there's actually one word to describe it. Space. And when I mean by space, I don't mean where astronauts are born or where the star shines, but more of the gap in between things. Like for example, there's hardly any power chords on this EP. You know, the stuff where it's just like... Instead, Stephen would play these chords, but arpeggiated. You know, like... something like that. And the drumming is amazing because it barely offers any backbeats, you know, like the simple tee-tee-pa, tee-tee-tee-pa, but instead it offers these uneven rhythms and syncopation where it would sound like fills and it's a bit more tribal, you know, something like and I also like how the guitar sounds, where it's very warm and vintage, and it's actually very consistent throughout the EP, whereas in other projects, you know, sometimes the guitars would change from clean to dirty to coarse to whatever freaking other pedal effects you put on it, but it's actually very consistent to a point where it feels like the EP is just one giant song. And also, the guitar licks. Like, I feel like these guitar licks that Stephen plays, you know, the beep beep beep, I'm not gonna do that example again, but those guitar licks that Stephen plays, it almost feels like neuroplasticity just running through your brain. I mean, this music is almost nice to like do your homework or do your taxes to. And it's even cool because sometimes Stephen would play two guitars. I mean, recording-wise, he wouldn't play two guitars with only two hands. Like in the recording, he would have a guitar going me 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 me, and then you have another guitar going me 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 me. You put them together, and it's these dueling guitar little riffs are very present, especially on the second song, What I Still Remember. And the thing I really like about this song, What I Still Remember, is that you have all this weird experimental math rock stuff playing, and then Stephen's vocals just comes in so lightly and so gently that it feels like clouds just slowly hovering above this city, this very complex city. And another cool thing is that Stephen would back out his vocals and then let the instruments do their thing and allow it to breathe. This is what I mean by space. Like for instance, you got bass, drums, guitar, another guitar, and vocals. It's hard to like give anything, you know, attention to. But when Stephen backs out his vocals, you can actually pay attention to the math rock, or should I say emo math rock that goes along in the EP. So when Stephen stops singing, this is his time for him to express and showcase what he can do with textures. Wait a minute, texture? What? Sound doesn't have texture, audio doesn't have texture, what are you talking about? Well, when I mean texture in music or audio, I'm talking a bit more metaphorically speaking. Like for instance, when you hear of an electric guitar and its really pinchy sound, you probably associate it with thunder. When you hear a drum playing a rhythm, you probably associate it with a train, or moving forward. Or if you hear a piano going blum, you probably associate it with a freaking 7-Eleven when you walk in the store and it has the little bell chime. I don't know. What I'm trying to say is, the sounds that Stephen used just kind of makes you associate specific feelings and specific textures in mind. Like for instance, he would use that warm guitar sound, which is more in the low end, that makes you feel, warm inside. And then to top it all off, you got this drumming that is just so uneven and so spontaneous that it feels like you're on the verge or on the edge of something, which gives the whole EP this kind of soft and mellow feeling, but also punchy. I'm saying punchy! Which brings me to another element that he does. It's just when he combines all of these sounds together, it sounds like a clutter. Especially on the song Writing a Romance, it has all these notes flying around everywhere, and you can't really tell if it's sad or happy, or in another case, you can't tell if it's major or minor. Which is really cool, because this song, Writing a Romance, it's almost like it morphs into whatever you're feeling that day. Like if you're feeling happy, it's a happy song. And if you're feeling sad and depressed, well, then I guess it's a sad boy song. And again, with these vocals, not just on this song, but the whole EP, it's just short, tiny phrases. They're not like really long freaking paragraphs, but it's actually 4, 5, 7 words, and then it backs out, and then it comes again. This gives you time to think about what he's actually saying. And this is what I'm bringing up to the point about space. And then finally we get to that last song, Ghost in the Hallway. Wow, like if you just listen to the entire EP and then you get to that last song and you just hear those first few strumming of the chords, I've never felt so depressed in my life, but in a good way, in a very emotional, relatable, artsy way. Not like, Gee, when you hear these first chords, I just think about lying on a wooden floor with the sunlight piercing through the window, and you just feel the heat, and you're just lying there gee, what am I gonna do today, man? Fortunately, it doesn't stay lonely forever, since the bass and drums come in, where it makes you feel like, you got friends, you got band members behind you, you know what I'm saying? And then you get that really awesome lyric, that first lyric you get in the song, even astronauts get lonely on the moon. I know this lyric is pretty basic and pretty, simple philosophical or whatever they call it, but when you hear the entire album and you hear this one vocal phrase, it just makes you relate to everything you just heard, and it sums up into one point. Astronauts get lonely in the moon. Which is really cool, because I feel like this one phrase stands out, because this isn't really technically a storytelling phrase, because every other lyric in the past songs was storytelling lyrics. Which once again, I bring up to the point about space. Which is funny, because he's talking about astronauts, and astronauts are in space, and I see what you did there, 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 I see what you did. But yeah, it's space because you have all these lyrics that are mostly storytelling, and not really anything metaphorical or philosophical, no advice. But then you get to that first line of that last song, it just splashes right into your head, and you're just like, whoa, astronauts get lonely in space. So yeah, I like Palm Tree Square's EP, Palm Tree Square by Stephen Morris, who is part of Palm Tree Square. I enjoy Palm Tree Square for its consistent sound, its consistent texture, and of course, I'm doing it right now. Space! So yes, please, give Palm Tree Square a listen. I am YaFam, and I'll see y'all later.